I am Nikki.
And I'm Megan.
Welcome to the Grimdark Diaries.
We're your geek gal pals obsessed with true crime and all things dark and disturbing.
Hi, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Megan and I learned some really important stuff for us.
Oh? Like what?
Yes. Well, you remember our episode on fairies?
Yes.
Well, I've been learning about fairies. Somehow I found my way onto fairy TikTok, which is a thing.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
Fae Folk TikTok.
Uh-huh.
Learned a thing.
Nice.
So now I have some new hot tips. And if you haven't listened to our episode about fairies, you should, because it's pretty good. And then I teach you how to protect yourself from fairies, or if you want to interact with them, how you find them and how to make sure that they don't steal you into the fairy realm.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I found something else out and I was like, whoa, I didn't even think of that. This person pointed out, because you know how it's very dangerous to invite them in unless you want them in. But if you have a welcome mat that has some kind of a come on in message, or speak friend and enter, or friends welcome, or welcome, then that's like an automatic invitation, and then fairy folk can just come in your house if you have that.
Oh my gosh. Does that also work for vampires? I feel like that would be a vampire invitation as well.
I don't know. I feel like for vampires you need a vocal invitation.
Do you? I don't know. I guess I don't know the rules.
I don't know. I didn't do an episode on vampires.
No,
I don't
that's
know.
right. That's interesting. I didn't know that about the fairy world.
Well, I didn't know that either.
So they can just like come in and that's not a good thing? I can't remember.
Well,
what you
remember,
said
they're
about
always
that.
finding loopholes. They're very clever
Yes.
like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, it depends on if they're a bad fairy. Remember, they're tricksters.
Yes.
They like to trick you.
Well, that'll be interesting to see. You have a little fairyland outside of your house.
I know, right? I'm going to make it even more of a fairyland once the
You're going to
weather's
be inviting
nicer.
them. You literally would invite them in anyway, I feel.
100%. I see things glittering in my backyard all the time and I'm like, it's a fairy.
100%.
I think it is all
Yeah.
the time. It's probably some garbage from the neighbors that made its way into my yard, but
Yeah.
I am going to tell myself it's a fairy until
Could
proven
be.
otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. You live your best life. Living
I'm going to.
with fairies.
I'm living it right now. I'm actually having a beer.
Oh, are
You didn't
you?
even know, did you? Yeah,
I
we already
had no-
recorded something before this. I'm almost done in my beer.
I did not know that you were drinking because you have it in your little cooler cup. So I thought it was
I
just
do. I have it in my
water.
cooler cup so you can't see it. Yeah, it's been a work week. It's been a lot.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
quite stressed.
Yep.
And usually I don't like to drink when we record because we record on Wednesdays and I have dancing the next day
Right.
for like 3 hours and it goes until like 11 to 11:30 p.m.
Gross.
So like I got to be on my A game. So I don't like to have a little drinky poo the night before, but I haven't had a drink in a really long time.
Yeah, that's true. Do you still, now that the season's over? I guess it's not technically over.
Yeah, because we don't know if playoffs are happening.
Right.
Megan attended another lacrosse game, everybody.
Did I ever? It was so good.
And we won, so it was an even better game.
So it wasn't me. That was bad luck the first time.
No. And I got to come sit with Megan during the fourth
Yes!
quarter and watch the game
Yes,
because
you
we didn't have
did.
to do anything.
It was so fun. I loved it. It was so good. And they had like a giant fight, and then there was like lots of goals, and everybody did like standing ovations. And man, that I don't know how I never knew about lacrosse. I knew about lacrosse, obviously, but I didn't know
You didn't know anything about
it at all. I had no idea what kind of like sport it was. It is like full contact, no rules. There's literally nothing. I'm sure there's rules, but there's no rules. I feel like there's no rules because there's like, I've seen sticks in faces and people tripping and being pushed and all over the place, and no ref calls anything, even if they're standing right beside them.
Yeah.
Full blown fight, like fist fight, gloves
Oh, yeah,
on the
they took
ground.
their helmets off, they
Yes,
took their gloves off, and they just like circled each other and then started punching each other.
It was wild. I have never seen anything like. I now understand why humans decided to have like entire gladiator fights, and like everybody in the Coliseum would be like would be on like standing on their feet and cheering and yelling, and the people at this fight was like where they go down to the glass and they were like banging on the glass. I'm like, that glass can hold like a ton of people banging against it because a lot of pressure on that glass. But it was so good. You just feed off that energy, right? And by the time it was over, it was like, no. And the guy that won, of course, who was on the Halifax team, and he won, and he's like gearing up the audience, throwing his arms in the air, like, yeah, like trying to get everybody to cheer for him. And it was just, everybody was roaring. It was so good.
There you go. There's our commercial. If you have a local professional lacrosse league near you,
that's right,
go watch their games. It's very good.
Absolutely. Highly recommend. And I'm so sad I have not had it in my life until now.
Yeah. And if you live in Rochester, we just whooped your team. So,
but you know what? Apparently, my friend went to the bar on Saturday night, because the game was Friday night. And my friend went to the bar on Saturday night, and the team members from New York were still here, and they were still partying.
Oh, really?
Yes, because they said they loved it here in Halifax. They loved partying here, so they stayed.
Well, I don't know if we still do, but at one point we had the most bars per capita in the world.
I think we do. Yep. I think we still do. Yeah, we have.
Yeah, there's a commercial if you want to come to the place with the most bars per capita.
Yeah. Yeah, we have quite a few bars, and we have especially the shortest distance between the bars. There's entire streets downtown Halifax.
You can go to 30 different bars in a 10-minute walk.
Easy. Easy. I think there's I don't know, 400 bars just downtown alone, downtown Halifax. And Halifax is just so much bigger than that too. It's just downtown alone. There was so many bars.
We like our wobbly pops here.
We have good times.
So we're just making a commercial for our,
I know.
our town here.
Tourism Nova Scotia.
Lacrosse. The dance team's pretty freaking cute.
Absolutely.
we got bars. Yeah. What else do we have? What do we have here?
The giant fiddle. Oh wait.
That's Cape Breton.
Cape Breton, yeah.
Don't tell him about that.
No, it's in Nova Scotia.
Thomas not the tank engine. What's the tugboat's name?
Theodore Tugboat. Well, no, because is it back?
Didn't we sell that to somebody?
I don't know if we sold it. So it went to New Brunswick for a little while, and now I think it's in Ontario. I don't think it's here again.
Okay, disregard that one.
I don't know.
We do not have.
It was
Theodore
here.
The tugboat here.
It might be back. Who knows? I have no idea. We also have
other things.
That cannon that shoots at noon every single day of the week.
We already told everyone.
I
about
know.
That. We need to come up with something new.
Okay,
what else do we
new
have
things.
Here?
Oh God, I don't know.
We have things that other towns have, but ours are cooler.
That's right.
Come check them out.
Absolutely.
The Grimdark Diaries is here. They're pretty average at best.
Don't tell them that.
Oh, they're below average.
The below average. That's right.
Subpar.
Subpar. See, we got to set the expectations properly so that they're pleasantly surprised at the end of it.
Yeah. Megan, did you see that in a couple weeks is going to be the Burger Bash here?
What's a Burger Bash? No,
well,
I did
not. Burger Week, but now they're calling it the Burger Bash because it's 10 days, so they can't call it a week.
Oh, they extended it? Oh,
yeah.
That's cool. I did not see that. I do know about Burger Week, but I didn't know they extended it.
It's Burger Week, but +3.
But better.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought of another thing. We actually have a bar on the waterfront that you can sit at and just hang out at the waterfront and drink. It's pretty cool.
We have a lot of bars on the waterfront.
Okay, but the one that I'm thinking of.
Are you thinking of the Beer Garden?
Stubborn Goat? Yeah, the Beer Garden.
Yeah, that place is good.
It's amazing.
I'll tell you what, though. They overcharge for their beers. One little vodka soda is $9. That's robbery. I can almost get a whole 12-pack for that price.
That's how much I spent for one at the lacrosse game I went to on Friday.
Well, that's your fault for paying for your booze and not smuggling it in.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Next time I'll know. They check your bags at the door. If you have a purse, they
do. They?
Yes, they check your bag at the door.
I've only ever danced for sporting events. I've never attended a sporting event, so I go in the staff door. That does not mean I drink while there. I'm just going to put that out there. I do not do that.
Yeah, they definitely check your bags at the door, so you can't smuggle anything in.
Well, lesson learned. Don't smuggle anything in.
Okay. I was going to say the fairy story. We got off on major tangents here, but I was going to say the fairy story is a nice segue into my category for this week, which was what's hiding in the woods.
Oh, and then fairies.
And then
we
went on a tangent. Yeah, that's the end of the story. Okay, thank you everybody for joining us tonight.
Yeah, just circle back to that fairy episode.
Yeah, that's right.
Re-listen to that.
Yeah.
And then bada bing, bada boom.
That's right. You won't be disappointed.
Is that what they say in the East Side Mario's commercial? Bada
bing, bada boom. Yeah, I think so.
Is that the version? Whatever the order they say those in, I always say it in the opposite, and then my husband gets annoyed at me because I sing that song all the time. And I'm always like, hey, bada boom, bada bing.
No,
it
is opposite.
No.
Yeah.
And he's like, it is the other way. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah, no, it's bing, bing first, then boom. Gotta end with the boom.
Anyway, I don't know why I brought that up, but here we are.
Okay. Well, my story today is not about fairies. However, we are going to talk about what's hiding in the woods.
Like just in general? Or
in
like
general, yeah. So we got bugs, we got spiders.
Oh no, don't tell. You know what? I was on my elliptical yesterday and I was going at a real clip because I was trying to work off some treats I had. I ate some ice cream, so I was on that elliptical working it. And then I like saw something in the corner of my eye, and then I looked down at my thing in front of me, and there was a freaking spider on it, and I was like, oh, you want to see my heart rate spike in my workout? Jesus, I had to hop off, get a tissue, get the spider out of there.
Gross. No, thank you. I can't.
Yeah, he was going for a little jog with me.
I can't do spiders. I can't do them. That's gross. Okay, yes, I'm sorry that I brought up spiders. So, my story, however, we are going to go back into the 1840s.
Ooh.
Where? In our neighboring province of New Brunswick.
No way.
Yes, I have a story from 1840s New Brunswick. How cool is this? I just love this story. I love finding, I don't know what is up with me lately. I've been on such a history kick ever since I started watching Outlander for some reason.
I was about to say, let me guess, since you started watching Outlander.
Yes.
Every episode you've managed to bring up how you're watching Outlander. Just in case anyone doesn't know, Megan's really into Outlander right now.
Damn good show. And if you don't watch it, you need to. Highly recommend. No, but I've been really into, like, I've been looking at my own family history and my ancestry and just reading about the migration of all the Europeans that came over to, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, North America in general. It's been so fascinating. I don't know. I never cared about history when I was in school. Some very bad student.
Me either.
I don't know why I care about it now, but this one's a pretty cool story. Okay, so at the time in the 1840s, there were a large amount of farmers that had immigrated from Ireland specifically due to the potato famine. Yeah, you know about the potato famine.
Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Yeah, of course I do. We covered this because in my episode about Halloween, they all came over because of the potato famine, and then they brought Halloween.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yes, exactly.
Jeez, Megan, just forgetting my stories.
Listen, it's not
involving
just you.
Potato famine.
I forget
and also
everything.
Ireland, which I love.
Yeah, me too. I love Ireland. I would love to go there someday. And yeah, I think we already discussed this, obviously, but yeah, I did forget. I don't forget just your stories. I forget everything. So bad memories.
Megan has no idea where we are.
I don't. Where are we? What year is it? I'm just living in the 1800s.
It's 2019. Things are going great.
2019.
Yeah, nothing to worry about.
Nothing bad is going to happen. Don't worry.
Nope. World's great.
That's right. Not on fire at all.
Nope.
Okay. We're powering through this story. Okay.
Are we?
I don't.
Did
not
we make
at
it
all.
a sentence
Actually,
yet?
no. 2 sentences actually.
It's a record.
I know, right? So, where we're going to is St. John, New Brunswick, and an interesting fact about St. John. As I mentioned, it was around the 1840s when the potato famine farmers all migrated to North America. In 1851, the census said that these migrants actually outnumbered the previous migrants that had already landed there. And by the time 1871 rolled around, more than half of St. John's population, which was only 23,315 at the time, were from Ireland.
Cool.
Isn't that fascinating?
So a lot of people from St. John, New Brunswick probably have Irish descent.
That is what it is looking like to me, yes.
Also, fun fact about St. John is they don't say downtown, they say uptown, and I hate it.
Yes, I know. I don't know why, but we love St. John. It's just, I love St. John.
I love going to visit there.
Yeah.
My good friend that I brought up in the podcast, I feel like I've brought her up multiple times lately. Kay Fergie Ferg, she lives in St. John. That's with her little fam jam.
Yeah.
And she's the shit. I love her.
She is the shit. We love her.
Oh my God. She's the most fun person ever.
True. Absolutely. She looks like she's straight out of an anime. She's so cute.
Oh, she is just anime in human
Absolutely,
form.
yeah.
She cosplays too.
Yeah.
And I met her because she was on one of my dance teams.
Mm-hmm.
So we partied a lot together, had a lot of laughs. I stood in her wedding. I love her.
Yeah,
I miss
she's
her.
awesome. Absolutely.
Pandemic really frigged all my New Brunswick visiting.
Yeah, it really did.
I used to be there like every second month.
It's true, yeah. I have to pick that back up now that things are opening up again.
I don't know. Gas is expensive.
That's true too. Yeah. Love that meme going around where it's like, oh, yay, the world is calming down. We can go out again. And then it's like, gas prices.
Gas prices.
No, the fuck you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not happening. Okay, carrying on.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll be more quiet.
No, it's fine.
I had a really bad day at work today.
No, it's
so,
okay.
Like, I'm just looking for human contact to make me feel like my life is not in shambles and that my soul isn't being sucked out by my day job.
Okay, yes, you know what? You do you, and I will allow it to happen.
Thank you, Master Jedi Megan.
You didn't mean it that way.
Please, sir, may I have another?
Can I have some more? Okay. Back to the story. Okay, so there was one farmer. His name was Patrick Slavin. He was around 50 or 60 years old. We don't know. Records were clearly not as great as they are today. So he was around 50 or 60.
They didn't have a Wikipedia page?
No, I don't think so.
Are you sure?
Or is Wikipedia going to tell us how old Patrick
Did you
Slavin
Google
is?
it? No, I was joking. Because Wikipedia didn't exist then. That was the joke, Megan. Come on.
Oh, God. When you have to explain a joke to me, it's so not as funny as it should be. I apologize to all of you listening who got that before I did. Okay. He was originally from Ireland, obviously, and he worked on constructing the European railway system, which is kind of cool. And then he moved to New Brunswick and continued to work on the railway system here in North America. Patrick had an acquaintance whose name was Hugh Breen, who he worked closely with as a laborer. And about a few miles out from St. John was a place called Simon's Parish. That was where Patrick lived with his wife and children. And Patrick Jr. was the eldest son, and he actually worked with Patrick sometimes. So we're going to come back to Patrick Jr. again as well. Not far from Patrick's place on Black River Road in Beaver Lake, which is located in the Misbeck area, was Robert McKenzie, who was a Scottish immigrant.
My favorite.
I know. He lived there with his family. I always wonder, like, how we lost those accents. I'm really sad about that part of it. I don't know.
I mean, you can feel free to bring it back at any time. Pull a Madonna.
Would love to try, but you do not want to hear that.
There's YouTube videos. They'll teach you.
You keep telling me that. I don't look them up. I'm not that committed. I just want to immerse myself in their world and get it that way naturally. So Robert lived there in this area with his family, and he ran his own chair factory business.
I'm sorry.
Yes, chairs.
Chair factory?
He made chairs.
What kind of chairs?
I assume table chairs. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I did not look that up.
I don't know. I was just curious. I've never heard of just a chair factory. Usually it'd be like some kind of furniture factory.
Yeah, no, it was just chairs. I don't know. Maybe he just ran it by himself. There was not by himself, but like maybe with one or two other people. So he also had like a farm as well. So he was very busy.
A chair farm?
Yes, he grew chairs.
Organic, fresh chairs.
He planted the legs and they sprouted the rest of the chair, the seat in the back as well, and the other 3 legs. Jesus.
I love it.
Okay. He was very successful. He was a very successful and wealthy businessman. So whatever he was doing it right. And one chilly day in October 1857, Robert was home with his wife and their 4 children when he heard a knock at his front door. When he answered the door, Hugh Breen was standing there, and he was just looking for some work, inquiring if there was any positions available at the farm or the factory. The timing actually could not have been more perfect. Robert had someone quit the previous week who was working on the farm, and he needed the help. So Robert eagerly
Whoa.
agreed. Yep, I don't know.
It's an emphasis there.
I think that my brain was a little too slow for my mouth on that one.
Lagging like a 1990s Windows desktop.
That's right. Windows XP, if you will. Robert eagerly agreed to have Hugh join his team and to stay in the little house that was on Robert's property. So there was the big main house by the road, and then there was the little farmhouse that was further back down on the land. So Hugh left and said he'd be back in a few days. He just wanted to go grab his wife and his belongings that he wanted to bring with him so that he could stay. I guess when you have a farmhand, they literally stay right on the land where you live and live with you, like in this other property.
Yeah, you need to get up at the Jesus crack of dawn.
I suppose so. Yes. If you're going to be doing farm work, that's much, much too early. Up with the crows. Nope, that's not it. Up with the roosters. I don't know what time crows get up. I don't know if it's that early.
I'm sure they can make their own schedule.
I'm sure they do. So just like that, he left, and a few days later he returned, and he knocked on Robert's door and told him to come down to the smaller farmhouse so he could meet his wife. So they went down to the smaller farmhouse and went inside. But Hugh's wife wasn't there. Instead, Patrick Sr. came out of one of the bedrooms, one of the side rooms, and he was holding an axe behind his back.
What?
He walked over to Robert and just swung the axe immediately into his chest.
What? I did not see this coming this early.
Yeah. He swung over and over again until they were sure that Robert was dead. Yeah. Just wild.
Okay, keep going. I need to know why this happened.
Okay. Hugh obviously had no wife, and he was actually boarding with Patrick and his family. After the murder was over, Hugh and Patrick, and amazingly, Patrick Jr., who was only 15 years old at the time, went up to the main house where Robert's wife was sitting by the fire with their young baby in her arms, and their other 3 children were all sitting around her on the floor. Patrick Sr. wasted no time at all and walked right in and hit her over the head. She didn't even have time to react before she was on the floor.
Oh my goodness.
This obviously scared the children, so Patrick, again, wasting no time at all, ended up...
No.
Okay.
Let all the children go, and they found a nice family to live with, even the baby, and the baby grew up to be the president of Canada.
That's right.
Because we have that here.
We have a president in Canada. That's right. Yes. Yeah.
That's what this baby did.
Yep.
And they all had their favorite candies for supper.
And they lived happily ever after. And there were actually no woods. I lied.
There's nothing to do with woods in this story.
No, exactly. I'm very sorry, and
I feel like Michael Scott in The Office when he's like, "No, no."
Exactly.
I don't want to hear it.
I'm just refusing to believe that this is part of the story.
Yes.
Well, I think you all know what happened. He did kill them all, every single one of them.
Even the baby?
Yes, with the axe.
No,
I know. It's just horrible. Like, he had no soul. I'm convinced. The reason he did this, he and his son and Hugh knew this family to be well off, and what they wanted was their money and their belongings, their expensive belongings that they could sell. They ended up finding about 100 pounds, which is about...
This is Canada. Come on.
It was
figure it out. We got loonies and toonies here.
It wasn't. We did not back then in the 1840s or 1850s.
They didn't have no loonies and toonies back there.
No, those are recent.
Just joking. I remember having $2 bills when I was a kid.
We did have $2 bills. That's right. Yes, and $1 bills. There was $1 bills as well. Do you remember those? No, I'm older.
No,
than you.
I don't think I was alive for that. I only had loonies in my lifetime.
We're not that far apart.
It's at least 40 years.
Oh my God. Get out.
No, I don't actually know. What year were you born?
83.
You're not sure?
Yeah, no, I am. I just didn't know if I want to say it.
83?
Yeah, 83.
It's only 5 years.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
Okay, can you count?
No.
You reported?
Yes.
Okay.
5 years.
We're 5 years apart, yes. Yeah, so I do remember $1 bills in Canada. So that's
Really?
yeah.
I really thought we only had loonies.
No, we did not.
Interesting. I was not aware we had a $1 bill. I learned something new today, everybody. I'm sure that's extremely interesting to everyone listening.
The loonie was introduced when you were not born. They were introduced in 1987.
The year before I was born.
And I was 4, so I do recall $1 bills. Also, I feel like they were still in circulation for a little while after. Like, you know, when the toonie came out, the $2 bill, you'd still see that every now and again floating around. But as they got deposited into the bank hoarded them and kept them all for themselves. It's fine, whatever. Okay, so they found 100 pounds. This 100 pounds was... Today, it would be equivalent to 12,000 pounds, 12,048 pounds, or $19,663.66 Canadian. Or if you're going to go US, it's $15,733.62. That's how much money they ended up
rate is shit.
finding. Yeah, it really is.
Wow.
I know, I did that exchange rate yesterday,
Canadian
so that is like...
sucks right now.
It absolutely does.
That sucks. I just bought something from the US last week too, but I only saw it in US prices and I was like, man, what a bargain. And now I'm like, don't want to look at that credit card statement.
I know. So it's so funny because like I obviously am a big Twitch person, and initially the price was like $5.99, and in Canadian money it was like $6 and something, and that was pretty cool. Now it's like
something.
Now it's like, well, I think it's $6.99 Canadian US, and in Canada it works out to $8.04. I was like, oh, it's going up more and more every time I look. It's like the shittiest exchange right now. I hate it. Although not as bad as, because like pounds is 12,000. Like we're still really off with the pounds European money. Oh my gosh. Our exchange rate is terrible here in Canada. Although I think that's why people come here to shop. So it was obviously not an insignificant amount of money that they found, which seems like a lot of money to be holding in your house for some reason. I guess, I don't know if there was banks back then. I'm sure there was. So before the 3 left, they wanted to cover up their crimes. They didn't want to be found out for their crimes, obviously. So they set fire to the homes, both the main house and the farmhouse.
So they just came literally for some cash? Yep. They killed an entire family for some cash.
Mm-hmm. They just wanted the money, and so they decided to kill them and then rob them, and that was it.
They should have just robbed them.
They should have, yes, I agree. I don't know why they didn't. I have no idea. There was obviously no other like workers on the farm. Like I feel like his farm hand would have been the only other person on the farm, and that person left the week prior too. So yeah, it's unfortunate timing. The next day, on October 25th, 1857, which was a Sunday morning, a local man drove by the McKenzies and saw that it was in smoldering ruins. So he went to the police station immediately and reported the fire. Investigators went into both of the homes, and they only found partial charred remains of 2 adults and 1 child. I looked this up on many different sites. There were actually not a whole lot of sites about the story. It's not really written much anywhere. There's like a really detailed story on the University of New Brunswick website of all places, which was kind of interesting that's where I found it. But there weren't a whole lot of other resources for this story, and I don't really know much more about it or where the other remains were, but they only found partial remains. So what it sounds like, and it wasn't described this way, but what it sounds like is that because they were partial charred remains, it sounds like they were chopped up with the axe. Which
oh my God.
Horrific to think about, but it's the only thing that makes sense for how the story was laid out. So they also discovered a safe that was open and left empty. So between this evidence and the fact that both homes that weren't anywhere near each other were burnt down, like it wasn't enough to be like spreading fire or anything like that. They were far enough apart that it wasn't caused by that. So because of that, it caused suspicion within the St. John Police Department. that this was likely not accidental. After the search of the homes was complete, the investigators found that someone had seen Hugh Breen in the neighborhood knocking on Robert McKenzie's door. So they had seen him in the area when he was looking for a job. When the police arrived at Slavin's house, as that was where they knew that Hugh was boarding, they decided to go there to interview him. Patrick Sr., Jr., and Hugh were all not there, so the police spoke with one of Patrick's younger sons. His name was John. And John told the police that on the night in question, Patrick Sr., Patrick Jr., and Hugh had planned the crime in advance. Then they all left and returned.
The son told the police?
Yeah, he told the police. He was like, this is what's up.
Oh, man.
I know. And how old did it say he was? We find this out later in the story, but it says he's 10 to 11. I don't know if he just doesn't know how old he is, but 10 or 11 years old. And he just like straight up tells the police everything. Like, kudos to this kid for being brave and doing that.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion. So after he told the police that they had planned the crime in advance, he told the police that the three of them had left. The three all left and returned later that day with money, clothing, and other property, and that they were acting weird and suspicious. The police spoke to other witnesses as well, and they all corroborated John's testimony. Patrick's wife, Mrs. Slavin, which she was not given a name, just that she was Mrs., tried to shift the blame on Hugh Breen and said that it was all his idea. He's the one who he came up with the story. It isn't said how long this took, but the police ended up going on a manhunt looking for the two men and child. The St. John police did end up finding them eventually.
Were they hiding in the woods?
Hiding in the woods.
And we have our theme, ladies and gentlemen.
The very loosely laid out. What's hiding in the woods, everybody? Patrick and Hugh. They were hiding in the woods about 16 kilometers from their home in Simons Parish. Another Irish family that was related to Patrick just through marriage had been hiding them away, aka aiding and abetting these criminals. So after searching for the three of them, the police found close to 80 pounds. They also called it sovereigns in cash, so I don't know if that's like another word for pounds or if it's... I tried looking it up, but it was kind of confusing, honestly. It's written out, like the symbol is a pound symbol, so I'm just going to call it pounds. They were all arrested and indicted in the murder of Mr. and Mrs. McKenzie and their 4 children. Hugh Breen and Patrick Sr. pleaded guilty to the murder charges. Patrick Jr., however, was put through trial. Because he was only 15 years old at the time, they were kind of, going back and forth whether he should be tried, whether he should be, given a leniency because of his age and blah, blah, blah. He also appeared to only have been an accessory to the murders, not taking part of them. He had apparently just been keeping watch. However, it was later revealed through testimony that he had been inside the farmhouse after the family was killed to search for money and belongings to steal. The court case was conducted by Solicitor General Charles Fisher. Under English criminal law, Patrick Jr., even though he did take part in the killings himself, even though he didn't, I know, I was just like,
did and didn't when it comes to murder.
I don't know why.
That's a big whoopsie.
Yeah, that was my typing whoopsies. Even though he didn't take part in the killings himself, he was just as guilty as Patrick Sr. Those who testified in court that knew Patrick Jr. described him as a simple boy. He wasn't bad, but he just lacked any common sense. John Slavin also took the stand, this 10 or 11-year-old boy, and he repeated the same story that he told to the police against his older brother, father, and Hugh Breen. And yeah, nothing changed in his story. He just straight up told them the truth, what he had seen, what he had heard.
Damn, they should have coached that son.
Right? Maybe he became a police officer later in life. I don't know. Be good to know. The St. John Police's chief said that Patrick Jr. had tried to place blame solely on Hugh Breen for the planning and murders of the McKenzie family. Regardless of Pat Jr. saying this, Hugh Breen had not implicated him in the violence of that day. All he said in his statement was that Pat Jr. helped to find the money and belongings they wanted to steal and then helped burn down both buildings and then also carry them back to their house. So this was Hugh's statement in the trial. I went to the house and asked McKenzie to come down as my wife had come. Old Slavin said not to make a fire, and after it was made, we put it out. McKenzie came down with a candle in his hand, and old Slavin took the axe used for chopping wood out of my hand. His son was there. There were 2 or 3 in the house. Slavin was in one place and McKenzie in another. When McKenzie came in, Slavin came out and said, "She is on hand." This was referring to my wife's coming. He had the axe in his hand and hit McKenzie on the breast. He said, "Dead dogs tell no lies."
Oh my God.
I know, brutal, right? Seriously. He hit him on the breast with the back of the axe. McKenzie groaned, but he did not speak. We put him into the cellar, and old Slavin afterwards brought him up. When we went to the upper house, Slavin asked me if I knew the house. He told me to go in and watch the door until he got a view of her. He then went in, and Mrs. McKenzie was sitting at the fire with a child in her arms. She asked if she was coming, meaning my wife. Slavin then struck her with the axe on her head, and she fell over the edge of the stone. He then struck her 3 blows on the body. He then struck the children who were standing around their mother crying. He killed the whole of them. The children cried, but Mrs. McKenzie did not. Prisoner and me took no direct part in the murder. We were standing on the porch at the time. End quote. It was brutal. Just like hearing the exact words from this person who was there just kind of like sends a little chill up my spine. So Patrick Slavin Sr. also wrote a statement as well, and his was a little bit shorter. He said, "We went up to the house, Breen and I. I was first. Breen showed me the way. I did not take the axe. There was one at the door. Breen gave it to me. When I went in, I saw Mrs. McKenzie standing by the fire and the 4 children beside her. I struck her on the head 10 or 15 times.
Oh my Lord, you made your statement worse.
I know, right? I don't know why. He said, I killed them all. They did not cry much. We searched the house and found over 100 pounds of money. It was myself that ransacked the chest. The money was in gold. It was in a yellow bag like the one in court. There was a purse also and portmanteau. Don't know what that means, but
it's like Mentos, the fresh maker.
Yes, we're gonna say that it was Mentos and it was worth a lot of money. Gold-plated Mentos.
I don't think that'll make your breath fresh.
Maybe not. The boy was knocking about, keeping watch. I think that's just a phrase, not knocking, not literally knocking. He said, we had something to eat. We thought it best to set fire to the house. Breen and I both did it. I have 3 boys, Pat Slavin, 15 to 16, Johnny Slavin, 10 to 11, and Jamie Slavin, 6 to 7. Pat knows right from wrong. I have sometimes been too severe to him. He did not know when we left what we were going to do. If he had refused to go, I would have made him. He is a tender-hearted boy and has not looked the same since. It was I that killed them all. I am aware that the sentence of death will be passed on to me. I have told the truth. End quote. This whole thing is just brutal. Seriously. The word used to describe these testimonies by defense counsel at the time was extraordinary, because it is one self-confessed murderer testifying for the Crown and the other one testifying for the defense. So if one thing was certain between the 2 lawyers, Pat Jr. likely did not know about the murder plans, only to commit the robbery. During the sentencing, the Crown described Patrick Jr. as, quote, a most diabolical nature and was not fit to let loose on this country, end quote.
The junior? They said that about the kid?
At the junior, yeah. So now it was time for the jury to decide. This was the Crown. They were trying to prosecute him. So now it was time for the jury to decide the fate of this young man's life and if he had the ability to tell right from wrong. For Patrick Sr. and Hugh Breen, the coroner's jury returned a verdict of willful murder against the suspects. Judge Robert Parker, who was presiding in the case, sentenced them both to death by hanging, and that was scheduled for December 11th, 1857. Apparently, Patrick Slavin Sr. was satisfied with the sentencing.
Satisfied?
Was it
Is
worth
that the
it?
word we're going with?
That's what he said. Yeah, I don't know. Like, was it worth it? I feel like it's just not worth it. You wanted money and you wanted their belongings to sell for money, and then you get caught immediately, and then
you die instead.
Like, you're satisfied with that ending? Was it worth it? For Patrick Jr., the jury came back with a guilty verdict as well. They did recommend, however, that the judge show him mercy in his sentencing. The sentencing was actually deferred. So the judge said that he recommended to the executive level of government that Patrick Jr. get a prison sentence at the provincial penitentiary. But for some reason, in the meantime, he was sentenced to be hanged on March 4th, 1858. So I guess whatever comes first. I don't know.
Oh, that's not a fun game to play.
I didn't know that was a thing that you could do. So yeah, he sentenced him to be hanged. So I guess if the verdict didn't come from the executive level of the government in time, then he would have been hanged on March 4th, 1858. So while Patrick Sr. and Hugh Breen were waiting for their sentence to be carried out, something quite unexpected happened. As written in the Carleton Sentinel, which was a paper that was published at the time, a newspaper, quote, Breen, one of the McKenzie murderers, committed suicide Sunday evening, last by hanging himself. He was found suspended by an old yellow silk handkerchief from a small piece of wood, one end of which rested on a shelf and the other on a cleat. A bit of wood which had a hole bored in it and fitting on the stump of an old nail, assisted in the support of the cross stick. The place was too low for the purpose unless he pressed the weight of his body on his throat by raising his feet. The only persons allowed to visit him alone were Mrs. Doherty, Mrs. Carvel, Mrs. Travers, and Miss Haggerty, the Sisters of Charity, and the priest. Mrs. Doherty was with him from 6:30. About 20 minutes after she left, Miss Creighton went to the wicket and called Breen, but got no answer. The priest stated in his evidence before the coroner that he was visiting him a few minutes before 7:00. He had been called out in a hurry, and on going to Breen's cell door, he saw him as if kneeling. He went towards him and finding he had hung himself, assisting some persons to take him down. We understand he was buried last night in the almshouse burying ground. End quote. That was
so he hanged himself before he could get hanged?
Yes. I guess the waiting was too much, I guess. I don't know. I thought that was extremely too detailed for a newspaper article, but I guess things were different back then. They kind of went into literally every single detail about how he hung himself and what it looked like and all that stuff, which seems like a lot. But anyway, the same paper also wrote about Patrick Slavin Sr.'s execution. This was taking place outside of the St. John County Jail, where there was a stage outside. Apparently, nearby, there was a military unit of soldiers from the British garrison that were all armed with rifles and bayonets. That was to keep the peace. The article said, quote, yesterday being the day appointed for the execution and the prisoner Patrick Slavin Sr. still to dispose of, crowds began at an early hour to assemble in front of the jail. About 10 o'clock, the hour previously given notice of for the execution to take place, the crowd in front of the jail could not have been less than 5,000 or 6,000. About 10 minutes past 10, the prisoner stepped on the platform accompanied by Charles Johnston, Esquire, High Sheriff, and Reverend Sweeney, Catholic priest. There were also in attendance His Worship the Mayor, George Blatch, Esquire, Acting Deputy Sheriff, the Jailer Thomas, and a number of magistrates of the city and county. The sheriff himself performed the duty of adjusting the fatal noose, and Constable Pigeon, having drawn the cap over the prisoner's face, he stepped forward on the drop and seemed for a minute either listening to or accompanying Reverend Sweeney in prayer, during which time the sheriff, having stepped inside, cut the support, the drop fell, and death seemed to be almost instantaneous. End quote. After some time, and as many people had predicted, Patrick Jr. was finally sentenced to life in prison. Only 14 years later, he somehow found a way to escape from the penitentiary he was being held at on Courtney Bay and found his way down across the border to Maine.
Oh no.
And that's the last
now,
we've
America.
ever, yep, it's the last we've ever heard about Patrick Slavin Jr.
Oh really?
Yep, he literally disappeared into Maine and that was it.
Well, good luck to the descendants of him that
right
are in the US now.
Yeah, because 14 years
now.
He was put away at 15 years old, and then 14 years later, so he was only like 29 years old when he got down there, so still a young chicken.
A young chicken.
Come on, have you not ever heard that saying?
No.
Oh, okay.
I've heard a spring chick.
Yeah, that doesn't
you're young.
really mean the same thing though. I mean,
well, then what does a young chicken mean if it doesn't mean the same thing?
Young chick, like you know.
Isn't a young chicken a chick?
I don't know.
That's why they say they're a spring chick, because chicks are born in the spring, so that means you're just a little baby.
Yeah, but he wasn't a baby. He was a young chicken, so he was still able to have
Is
babies.
That really a phrase? Is
I
young
don't
chicken
know
really
now.
A phrase?
Now I'm second guessing. Oh, it is spring chicken.
Well.
Okay, well, spring chicken means a young person. You're no spring chicken yourself anymore. A young chicken for eating what? Wait.
No.
That's what it says. A young chicken for eating. Originally available only in spring.
We're not eating baby chicks on this show.
Oh my god, it's a thing. People eat baby chickens. What?
Oh, wait. That's... Nope. Don't like that.
Not eggs, but it's... Okay, young chicken. Look, see? A small child...
No, I don't want to look and see.
Oh, no, I'm not.
I don't eat meat anymore. I certainly don't want to see.
I'm absolutely not reading this out loud. Okay, anyway, moving on. It was spring chicken, you were right.
Megan missed spring chicken over here.
I don't know why I have young chicken in my brain. Maybe somebody said it to me at one point and I thought that's what it was. Anyway. Anywho. Yeah, so that was our famous 1840s, 1850s story about New Brunswick. How exciting.
That was wild.
I do love hearing about like local-ish stories. It's so funny because like I have to wonder if this is the story my dad was talking about. So my dad he's fixing up one of these camps in the area. And we were talking about how, because it used to be a camp that I used to go to when I was a kid. And then it became super run down. I didn't go to it. I went to it once while we were dropping off my brother. So we went inside and we got to hang out for like the first little bit. It must have been for like, I don't know, Boy Scouts or something like that. And we got to stay for a little bit and I got to stay for one story. And one story they told, which scared me to my very core, was about how there was this lumberjack that murdered somebody with an axe. And at night, sometimes if you're looking outside the windows of the camp, you might see this guy walk by with an axe. And I'm like, freaked me out so bad. It was just like,
how old were you?
I was so young. Like I probably was 5, maybe 6.
Oh my God. And they let you listen to that?
I know. I don't know why. So it's so funny because so my dad and some friends are actually rebuilding this place right now. And I was like telling him this story. This was like, I don't know, 2 weekends ago. And I was retelling him this story about how it just and it has stayed with me ever since. Like that story was terrifying to my core. And he was like, "Oh yeah, that was based on a true story." I was like, "I'm sorry, what? It was based on a true story?"
Now he's just turning your childhood fears into adult fears.
I know. I was like, "Wait, what?" I don't know if this is the story. I actually didn't really think about it until I started talking about this. I'm like, maybe this is actually the story that he was talking about. No, you know what? It's not, because he actually did say it was from the 40s. Like the 1940s.
Well, there you go. There's your next story.
Try to find that story. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear that story. But apparently it was a true story. And I didn't even know that. I just assumed my whole life that this was just a scary story that they told around the campfire. But apparently it's a real story that actually happened. Now, the part about, you seeing it outside the window, I don't know. That could be true too. Who knows? Who knows?
Well, there you go. There's your next research project.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to look it up because I'm so curious now. I couldn't believe it. Like, God, it's been over 30 years that I've been living with this story and this fear, thinking about that it was like just a campfire story to ease my nerves. And then he goes and tells me it's a real story. I was like, oh no. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I'll research that. Maybe knowing about the story and researching it will help me feel better about my fear.
You'll either feel better or feel worse.
Yeah, one or the other.
50% shot. I like those odds.
If any history tells me researching my fear will only make it worse. When I was in university, I researched arachnophobia. We had to pick one category and one subcategory. And the category I chose was phobias, and the subcategory I chose was arachnophobias. This was for psychology in university. And I was like, you know what? They say that if you have a fear, you dive into it. You learn about it. You try to do as much as you can to alleviate the fear. Well, researching arachnophobia and spiders on the internet was probably the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my whole life, and it actually made it way worse. So
yep, that's a no for me.
10 out of 10, do not recommend. Oh gosh. Okay, anyway, that's the end of my story. So yeah, it's your turn to roll, I guess.
It's my turn.
Yes.
Let me get my fancy die here.
Please.
My Grimdark die. Okay. I can't see it. It went under my laptop, which is up. I got a 16. 16 is my favorite Italian food is creepypasta.
Oh, I love it. That's so good. Creepypasta stories are so good.
Creepypasta.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you come up with.
I hope that some people don't know what creepypasta is, and then I'm just going to tell a story, and they're going to be like, whoa, that's wild. And then at the end of that episode, I'll tell you what creepypastas are.
Yeah.
We're having a pasta dinner next week, everybody. Get your garlic bread.
Oh, just make sure it's not like a red sauce.
Oh, my creepypasta is going to have red sauce and so much Parmesan.
Oh no. Oh boy. Creepypastas.
Well, if you want to check out our social media and see the pictures that Megan is going to have for this episode, you can search the Grimdark Diaries and you should be able to find us. And Grimdark is all one word. So search that. And if you would like to contact us or send us your creepypasta stories or any stories, or just say hello to us and want to be our friend, you can email us at thegrimdarkdiaries@gmail.com. If you are listening on Apple Podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. It really helps us out with whatever little goblins live in the internet and they push the buttons to make people see things. Those ratings and reviews allow the goblins to push our podcast to the forefront of the internet machine. And if you listen on Spotify, you can also give us a rating now and those goblins only allow 5-star ratings, so you just hit that 5-star.
That's right.
And that also helps us to appease the podcast gods. So please do those things. And tune in next week to see what I come up with for my favorite Italian food is creepypasta. And remember, a friend in the dark beats alone in the light.